Remember your place. You're claiming I got you pregnant. Get out of here. 4 years later, he saw her with twins and begged for a reunion. Hi, my wonderful family. Welcome back to Mr. Peter's family. May the Almighty clothe every woman in courage that never fades, in wisdom that never fails, and in love that never runs dry. May every scar on your heart become a story of strength, and every storm you've endured turn into sunshine within your soul. You are the promise after pain, the laughter after loss, and the reason hope still breathes in this world. May your spirit stay gentle but unbreakable, your dreams steady as dawn, and your peace deeper than the ocean. My precious family, never forget you are not alone in this journey. A like is a touch of faith. A comment is a bond of strength. This is Mission 1000 likes. For every woman who prays in silence, fights with grace, and rises again with love. If your heart still believes in miracles, like this video. If you walk in hope and faith, comment, "I'm with Mr. Peter." The memory of his voice still cut through Evelyn Thomas like winter wind through silk, sharp, cold, and impossibly cruel. Remember your place. You're claiming I got you pregnant? Get out of here. William Lucas had thrown those words at her like weapons, each one designed to destroy. She had stood in his family's marble foyer, her hand instinctively protecting the life growing inside her, while his mother's diamond-hard eyes watched with satisfaction. They had stripped her of dignity, accused her of scheming, called her a liar hunting for wealth. The Lucas family closing ranks around their golden son was a sight Evelyn would never forget, not because it broke her, but because it forged her into something unbreakable. That memory lived in Evelyn's bones now, a permanent resident she'd learned to live with. She thought about it every morning when she looked in the mirror and saw a woman who'd survived what should have destroyed her. She thought about it every night when she kissed her sleeping sons and whispered promises into their dreams. The estate stood before her like a monument to old wealth. Its Georgian architecture speaking of generations who'd believed money made them untouchable. Evelyn walked through the grand entrance, her heels clicking against marble floors that probably cost more than most people's homes. Her client, an entrepreneur who'd made her fortune through sustainable investments, walked beside her discussing vision and possibility. The Lucas family owned this property for over a century. The client mentioned casually, running her hand along a mahogany banister. Apparently, they were obsessed with maintaining appearances, even as everything crumbled around them. I want the opposite of whatever they represented. Evelyn's hand stilled on the wall she'd been examining. The name hung in the air between them like smoke from a fire everyone pretended not to see. She forced her voice to remain steady, professional, betraying nothing of the war raging inside her chest. Old families often confuse tradition with taste. We'll bring authenticity to these spaces instead of pretension. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a welcome interruption. Photos from her assistant flooded the screen. Liam and Robert at the park, their faces illuminated with laughter that made Evelyn's heart expand and contract simultaneously. Liam had his serious expression, the one that made him look far older than necessary, while Robert grinned with abandon, mud streaking his cheek. They were perfect. They were hers. They existed despite every attempt to prevent their birth, thrived despite every obstacle placed in their path. The client continued talking about timelines and budgets, but Evelyn was studying the photograph of Robert's eyes that would darken over time into an exact replica of irises she'd once traced with her fingertips. Liam's jawline already showed hints of the man he'd become, a genetic echo of someone who'd rejected him before his heart ever beat. "I'll take the project," Evelyn heard herself say. "When do you want to begin?" On that evening, Evelyn's mother called with complications. Dorothy needed her to take over caring for Evelyn's grandmother, Adelaide, for a long weekend. The request was reasonable, but it meant disrupting carefully maintained routines. It meant navigating questions from family members who still believed the story about an anonymous donor. "The boys can come with you," Dorothy suggested. Adelaide asks about them constantly. She says they have old souls. Evelyn watched Liam and Robert playing in the next room, building an elaborate structure from blocks that would inevitably collapse before completion. They approached the doomed project with such serious concentration, such absolute faith in their ability to create something lasting. "Will come," Evelyn agreed, already mentally rearranging her schedule. "Tell her we'll be there Friday evening." After dinner, she sat beside the boys' elaborate block creation. Robert immediately demanded she build the tower taller, his confidence absolute. Liam studied her face with unsettling perception, those knowing eyes, seeing more than any child should. "Mama, why do you look sad when you smile sometimes?" Liam asked, his small hand reaching for hers. The question pierced through layers of carefully constructed protection. Evelyn pulled both boys close, breathing in the scent of their shampoo and the lingering sweetness of childhood innocence. "Sometimes people carry old hurts that don't go away completely, even when they're happy. But you two make me more happy than any hurt could diminish." "Are we the good thing that fixed the bad thing?" Robert asked. "You're the best thing that ever happened," Evelyn whispered. "The very best thing." Later, after the boys had been tucked into bed with stories and songs, Evelyn stood in her office staring at the architectural plans for the Lucas Estate project. She traced the floor plan with one finger, imagining how she'd strip away the pretentious moldings, how she'd bring light into spaces designed to intimidate rather than welcome. There was poetic justice in being hired to erase every trace of the family that had tried to erase her. Her phone rang with an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her accept the call. Silence greeted her, the kind of loaded quiet that suggested someone gathering courage. Then a voice she'd convinced herself she'd forgotten spoke her name like a prayer or a confession. "Evelyn!" The single word carried the weight of years, regret, recognition. She should have hung up immediately. Instead, she stood frozen, listening to William Lucas breathe on the other end. "I have nothing to say to you," she managed. "I know," he said quietly. "But I need to say something to you. Please, just give me 5 minutes. You had your chance to speak. You chose your words carefully back then. Remember your place. Get out of here." Those words were clear enough to last a lifetime. "Evelyn, She ended the call, her finger stabbing the screen with force. The phone immediately rang again. Unknown number. She blocked it, then blocked 5 more numbers that tried in succession. Finally, a text message arrived. "I'll be at your office tomorrow morning. I've been searching for you for months. There are things you need to know about what really happened, about what my family did. Please, give me one chance to explain what I didn't understand until it was too late." Evelyn read the message 3 times, her mind cataloguing every possible interpretation, every potential trap. She thought about deleting it, but curiosity was persistent. She typed a response. 8 o'clock. "My office. You get 15 minutes. Waste them at your own risk." Sleep evaded her that night. She rose before dawn and checked on the boys, watching them sleep in the tangle of blankets and stuffed animals. Liam's face was peaceful in sleep. Robert had somehow ended up perpendicular to his pillow, 1 foot hanging off the bed. These were her sons, hers alone. William Lucas had no claim to them, no right to their existence. Whatever he wanted tomorrow morning, it wouldn't change the fundamental truth. He'd chosen pride over love, chosen his family's approval over her trust, chosen cruelty over courage. The morning arrived with grey skies. Evelyn arrived at her office early, needing the familiar space around her like a shield. She reviewed contracts, answered emails, projected an image of absolute control. At precisely 8 o'clock, her assistant buzzed the intercom. "Miss Thomas, there's a William Lucas here to see you. He says he has an appointment." Evelyn took one long breath. "Send him in." The door opened, and William Lucas stepped into her office, looking like time had taught him lessons she hoped had been painful. He was thinner than she remembered, his expensive suit hanging slightly loose. His eyes, those eyes her sons had inherited, locked onto hers across the space. "Evelyn," he breathed. "I've been searching for you for 6 months." She remained seated, refusing to give him the courtesy of standing. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady as stone. "You found me. You have 14 minutes left. Start talking." Chapter 2. The Ghost Who Came Back Breathing. William moved toward her desk like a man approaching holy ground, each step measured and cautious. Evelyn noticed the tremor in his hands, the shadows beneath his eyes that spoke of sleepless nights she refused to care about. He pulled documents from his briefcase with fingers that shook despite obvious attempts at control. "I left my family's company 18 months ago," he began, laying papers across her desk like evidence at a trial. "I found these hidden in my mother's private office safe. Payment records, dozens of them. Women I dated, women who disappeared from my life suddenly. She paid them all to leave." Evelyn glanced at the documents without touching them, as if they carried contamination. Bank statements, signed agreements, notarized letters. Her name wasn't among them, but the pattern was unmistakable. "There's more," William continued. "This one is about you. A medical report stating you couldn't have been pregnant. The doctor's signature was forged. My mother fabricated evidence to prove you were lying." The revelation should have shocked her, but Evelyn had lived too long with the Lucas family's cruelty to be surprised by its depth. She leaned back in her chair, studying the man before her with clinical detachment. "You're telling me this why? You want absolution? You want me to say it wasn't your fault because your mother pulled strings?" Her laugh was blade sharp. "You threw me out, William. Not your mother. You looked at me carrying your child and chose not to believe me. That was your choice alone." "I know," he said, and the admission carried such weight that it almost sounded like truth. "I destroyed everything that mattered because I was a coward. Because I let fear of disappointing them matter more than trusting you." "Past tense," Evelyn noted coldly. "How convenient that your enlightenment arrived after I'd already survived the consequences of your cowardice." William's jaw tightened, accepting the blow. "I had a sister, Grace. She went through something similar with a man my family approved of. He abandoned her when she got pregnant. She lost the baby, nearly lost herself. Watching her suffer showed me exactly what I'd done to you. So you needed to see your pain reflected in someone you loved before you could comprehend mine. That's not growth, William. That's just delayed empathy filtered through self-interest." He flinched but didn't retreat. "You're right. Everything you're saying is right. I'm not here asking you to forgive me or understand. I'm here because if there was a child, if you went through that pregnancy alone because of what I did, I need to know." Evelyn's eyes drifted to the photograph on her desk. 2 small figures with crayons, their artwork proclaiming "Mama's the best" in wobbly letters. William followed her gaze, and she watched the color drain from his face. "Do you have children?" His question emerged barely above a whisper. The silence stretched between them like a chasm. Evelyn could have lied, could have protected her sons from this moment indefinitely. But something in her refused to give him even that small mercy. "What I have is none of your concern. You made that decision when you chose your family's approval over the woman carrying your child." "Evelyn, please." His voice cracked on her name. "If I have a child out there, you don't have anything," she interrupted, each word precisely placed like stones, building a wall. "Having implies participation, implies presence, implies giving a damn about someone other than yourself. You forfeited all claims to possession when you called me a liar and threw me into the street." William gripped the edge of her desk, his knuckles white. "How old?" "Get out! Tell me how old the child is, please. That's all I'm asking." Evelyn stood, her body radiating controlled fury. "You're asking? You think you've earned the right to ask me anything? I was alone in a hospital, delivering your children, while you were probably celebrating another successful quarter with the family that destroyed us. I built a life from nothing, while you enjoyed the comfort of your chosen ignorance. You don't get to walk in here with apologies and documents and expect me to hand you information about my sons like it's owed to you." The plural registered. She saw it land, saw the word sons detonate behind his eyes like a bomb with a delayed fuse. William staggered backward, grabbing the chair for balance. Twins, he breathed. You had twins, alone, and I... He couldn't finish, couldn't voice the magnitude of his absence. Yes, you did. You did all of it. Every moment of suffering, every humiliation, every struggle. That was all you're doing. Evelyn moved toward the door, opening it with decisive force. Your 15 minutes are over. I have actual work to do for people who matter. But William didn't move. He stood frozen, staring at the photograph, his expression cycling through shock and grief, and something that might have been horror at his own capacity for cruelty. I have sons, he said to himself, testing the words. I'm a father, and I didn't even know they existed. No, Evelyn corrected sharply. You're a sperm donor who happened to be there at conception. Fathers show up. Fathers protect. Fathers don't abandon pregnant women to survive alone. Don't insult parenthood by claiming a title you never earned. Let me meet them. Let me try to... Absolutely not. You think I'd expose my children to someone who could discard them so easily? You think I'd let them anywhere near a man who chose pride over their very existence? William's voice emerged raw. They're my sons too. Biology doesn't make you a father. It just makes you responsible for half their genetics. Everything else, everything that actually matters, came from me. Their strength, their kindness, their security. I gave them all of that, while you pretended they didn't exist. I didn't know they existed. Because you chose not to believe me when I told you I was pregnant. Evelyn's control finally fractured, her voice rising. You chose your mother's lies over my truth. You chose comfortable denial over difficult reality. Those were your choices, William, and my sons have thrived despite them. Her assistant appeared in the doorway, drawn by raised voices. Miss Thomas, is everything all right? Evelyn took a breath, smoothing her professional mask back into place. Mr. Lucas was just leaving, permanently. Add his name to the blocked list. William looked at her with such naked devastation that she almost felt something like pity. But then she remembered standing in his family's foyer, humiliated and alone, and the moment passed. Evelyn, please, don't shut me out completely. If they're mine, they're not yours. They've never been yours. They're mine. Now leave before I have you removed. He gathered his documents with shaking hands, moving toward the door. At the threshold, he turned back one final time. What are their names? Evelyn's hand tightened on the doorframe. She could have refused this too, could have denied him even this smallest detail. But something, maybe exhaustion, maybe the tiniest sliver of mercy, made her answer. Liam and Robert. William's eyes closed as if absorbing a physical blow. Thank you, he whispered, and then he was gone, leaving only the echo of his presence and the faint scent of expensive cologne that triggered memories Evelyn thought she'd successfully buried. Chapter 3. The Walls That Protect and Imprison. William stood in the parking lot outside, Evelyn's office building, gripping his car keys without moving toward the vehicle. He'd imagined this confrontation 1,000 times during the months he'd spent searching for her. But none of his rehearsed scenarios had included twins, sons, 2 children who existed because of him but thrived despite him. He pulled out his phone and dialed his sister Grace. I found her. And it's worse than I imagined. Worse how? Twins. She had twins, boys. They're mine, and I've never even seen them. The silence lasted long enough to make William wonder if the call had dropped. Then Grace spoke, her words cutting clean as surgical instruments. What did you expect, William? That she'd be grateful you finally decided to acknowledge your mistake? I didn't abandon them. I didn't know they existed. Because you called her a liar when she told you she was pregnant. Semantics don't erase culpability. Grace's voice softened slightly. What are you going to do? I don't know. She won't let me near them. She's furious and she has every right to be. But Grace, they're my sons. I can't just walk away now that I know they exist. Can't you? You managed it pretty effectively before. The words stung precisely because they were accurate. William closed his eyes against the late morning sun. "Help me figure out how to fix this." "You can't fix it, William. Some things stay broken. But maybe you can build something new if you're willing to put their needs ahead of your guilt." Grace paused. "And you need to accept that you might never get what you want. Evelyn doesn't owe you forgiveness. Those boys don't owe you a relationship." After the call ended, William drove to a private investigator's office. It felt invasive, wrong, but he needed to understand what Evelyn's life had become, what his son's childhoods looked like. 3 days later, the report arrived. William read it in his apartment, each page a catalogue of his failures, reflected through Evelyn's survival. She'd worked 3 jobs while pregnant, delivered the twins alone in a hospital where she'd listed no emergency contact. She'd built her interior design firm from scratch, taking on small residential projects while her sons were infants. The twins attended a good preschool, had regular pediatric checkups, participated in library reading programs and Park District activities. They were well-fed, well-dressed, clearly thriving under Evelyn's singular care. The investigator's notes described them as notably happy children with strong attachment to their mother. Dorothy, Evelyn's mother, provided occasional childcare but lived hours away caring for an aging mother of her own. There were no other regular support systems, no romantic partners, no co-parent sharing the load. Evelyn had done everything alone. Meanwhile, Evelyn was packing for the weekend trip to her grandmother's home, laying out clothes for the twins with practiced efficiency. Liam watched her from his bedroom doorway, his solemn eyes tracking her movements. "Is that man going to come back?" he asked suddenly, Evelyn's hands stilled on the suitcase. "What man, sweetheart?" "The one who made you upset. I heard you talking loud when I came to bring you a picture." She thought the boys were playing in the break room with her assistant. Apparently, Liam had been closer than she'd realized. She crossed to him, kneeling to meet his eyes at his level. Sometimes grown-ups have difficult conversations about things that happened a long time ago. "But you don't need to worry. Everything is fine. You didn't sound fine. You sounded like when Robert broke your favorite cup and you tried not to cry." The observation was so precise that Evelyn's throat tightened. Liam had inherited his father's eyes, but he'd inherited her perceptiveness. "That man was someone I knew before you were born. He's not part of our life now, and he won't be. I promise you're safe." Liam nodded slowly, but his expression suggested he was filing the information away for future consideration. Robert bounded in moments later, oblivious, demanding to know if they'd see the horses at Great-Grandma Adelaide's neighbour's farm. The drive to Adelaide's home took them through countryside, gradually surrendering to autumn. The twins chattered in the back seat about everything and nothing, their voices a soundtrack that usually soothed Evelyn's frayed edges. Today, she couldn't stop thinking about William's face when he'd learned about the twins. Dorothy greeted them at Adelaide's door with hugs and immediate offers of food. The old farmhouse smelled like apples and cinnamon, like childhood and safety. Adelaide sat in her favorite chair by the window, diminished by illness, but still radiating fierce intelligence. "There are my beautiful great-grandsons," Adelaide said. "Come tell me what adventures you've been having." While the boys climbed into Adelaide's lap, with careful gentleness, Dorothy pulled Evelyn into the kitchen. "You look exhausted," Dorothy observed, filling the kettle. "What's happening that you're not telling me?" Evelyn sank into a kitchen chair that had held 3 generations of her family's confessions. "Someone from my past reappeared. It's complicated. The twins' father." The question hung in the air like smoke. Evelyn had maintained the anonymous donor story so convincingly that even her own mother rarely questioned it. But Dorothy's eyes held a knowing quality that suggested she'd suspected the truth all along. "How did you think I don't know my own daughter? I knew you weren't telling me everything. I just respected that you had your reasons." Dorothy set teacups on the table. "So he found you. What does he want? To apologize? To meet the boys? To ease his guilt?" Evelyn wrapped her hands around the warm cup. He didn't even know they existed until this week. Because you didn't tell him? Because he didn't believe me when I told him I was pregnant. He threw me out. His family called me a liar. I tried to tell him, and he chose to believe I was deceiving him. The words came faster now. So yes, when he made it clear he wanted nothing to do with me or our child, I disappeared. I wasn't going to fight for someone who'd already rejected us. Dorothy reached across the table, covering Evelyn's hand. I'm sorry you went through that alone. I wish you'd told me. I know. But I needed to do it myself. I needed to prove I could survive without him, without his family's money, without anyone's pity. And you did. You built a beautiful life for those boys. Dorothy paused. But sweetheart, surviving isn't the same as healing. At some point, you need to decide if keeping him away is protecting the twins or protecting yourself. Before Evelyn could respond, Liam appeared in the doorway. Mama, Great-Grandma Adelaide wants to talk to you. She says it's important. Adelaide's room was dim, curtains drawn against afternoon light. She patted the bed beside her, waiting for Evelyn to sit before speaking. Your mother tells me someone from your past has resurfaced. The twins' father? Yes. And you're angry? Yes. Good. Anger is honest. It's what you do with it that matters. Adelaide's weathered hand found Evelyn's. Let me tell you about your grandfather. When I told him I was pregnant, he panicked. Told me to handle it myself. I left town, had your mother alone, raised her by myself for 3 years. This was a story Evelyn had never heard. Your grandfather found me again when your mother was 3. He'd grown up, realized what he'd thrown away. He spent 2 years proving he'd changed before I let him back into our lives. Another year before I agreed to marry him. We had 40 good years together after that, but I never forgot those first 3 years of doing it alone. Are you saying I should give him a chance? I'm saying that people can change if the lesson is brutal enough to break them open. I'm also saying that you don't owe him anything, but I'm asking you to be honest about what you're protecting. Evelyn sat with her grandmother's words as evening settled. That night, after the boys were asleep, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. I'm not asking to see them. I just want you to know I've set up educational trusts in their names. My lawyer will contact you with the details. You control everything. I have no access. It's just the minimum responsibility I should have taken from the beginning. William. Evelyn stared at the message, her finger hovering over the delete button, but she didn't press it. Instead, she saved the number under a contact name she never thought she'd use again. William Lucas. Chapter 4. The Collision Nobody Wanted. The weekend farmers' market was Evelyn's favorite routine, a Saturday morning ritual where she and the twins wandered through stalls of seasonal produce and handmade crafts. Robert loved the fresh bread samples, begging for tastes from every baker. Liam preferred the flower stands, studying blooms with serious concentration. Today, the market bustled with early autumn crowds. Evelyn was examining apples when she felt the particular prickle of being watched. She turned, scanning the crowd, and her blood went cold. William stood 3 stalls away, holding a coffee cup and staring at her with intensity that suggested he'd been there a while. He'd clearly followed them, clearly violated the boundaries she'd established. Fury rose in her throat, but before she could grab her sons and leave, Robert took off running. "Puppy!" Robert shrieked, chasing a golden retriever whose leash had slipped from its owner's hand. The dog bounded toward the parking lot entrance. Robert in pursuit, both heading directly toward a delivery truck backing into the market area. Evelyn's heart stopped. She ran, but her angle was wrong. She was too far. William moved. He crossed the distance impossibly fast, scooping Robert up in one fluid motion, twisting away from the truck's path with inches to spare. The driver hit the brakes, the truck stopping with a screech that made several market-goers scream. Robert, oblivious to how close he'd come to disaster, laughed in William's arms. "You caught me! Did you see the puppy? He was so fast." William held Robert like he was made of glass and gold, his face drained of color, his hands shaking visibly. Evelyn reached them, her own hands trembling with adrenaline and terror. She pulled Robert from William's arms, checking him over with frantic maternal inventory. "Are you hurt?" "Robert, look at me. Are you okay?" "I'm fine, Mama. The nice man caught me. We were chasing the puppy together." Robert wriggled in her grip, more interested in the continuing dog drama. Liam arrived moments later, his face pale with awareness Robert lacked. "Robert almost got hit by the truck." "But he didn't," Evelyn said, forcing calm into her voice. "Because this man was very quick." She looked up at William, meeting his eyes. "Thank you." The words cost her something, but they were owed. Whatever lay between them, he'd just saved her son's life. William seemed incapable of speech. He stood staring at the boys with an expression that cycled through relief and wonder, and barely controlled emotion. When he finally found his voice, it emerged rough. "Is he really okay?" "He's fine, resilient, like his mother." Evelyn set Robert down, keeping a firm grip on his hand. "We should go." "Wait." William knelt down, bringing himself to eye level with the twins. He didn't presume, didn't reach out, just looked at them with naked longing. "I'm glad you're safe." "That was scary." Robert studied William with open curiosity. "You have eyes like me and Liam, like mirrors." The observation landed like a physical blow. William's breath caught audibly, his eyes indeed mirrors of the two small faces examining him. "I do," William managed. "You're very observant. That's what Mama says about Liam. She says I'm good at feelings and Liam is good at noticing things." Robert tilted his head. "What are you good at?" The question was so earnest that William's composure visibly cracked. "I'm learning to be better at showing up when people need me." Liam had been studying William with characteristic intensity. "Why are you sad?" "You saved Robert." "That's good. Sometimes people can be happy and sad at the same time," William said quietly. "I'm very happy your brother is safe. The sad part is complicated grown-up stuff. Our mama gets that kind of sad sometimes," Liam said matter-of-factly. "Especially when people ask about our daddy." Evelyn's heart slammed against her ribs. She needed to end this interaction before it careened further into dangerous territory. "Boys, we should finish our shopping. Say thank you to the nice man for helping Robert." "Thank you," both boys chorused. Then Robert added, "Do you want to help us pick apples? Mama lets us choose the best ones." The hope in William's eyes was almost painful to witness. He looked at Evelyn, a silent question giving her the power to accept or destroy this moment. Every instinct screamed at her to refuse. But Robert was looking at her with such innocent hopefulness, and Liam was watching William with that penetrating gaze that suggested he was adding pieces together. 10 minutes, Evelyn heard herself say. "Then we have other errands." The next 10 minutes felt like walking through a dream where everything was slightly wrong, but undeniably real. William asked the boys about their favorite fruits, listened with genuine attention as Robert explained his elaborate theory about which apples tasted best based on color. Liam remained more reserved, studying William with scientific precision, occasionally asking questions that felt like tests. "Do you have kids?" Liam asked suddenly, William's hand stilled on the apple he'd been examining. His eyes found Evelyn's, asking permission for honesty. She gave the slightest shake of her head. "Not yet. Not here. No," William said carefully. "But I think kids are pretty amazing." "Our daddy doesn't live with us," Robert volunteered with casual delivery. "Mama says some families are different, and that's okay." "Your mama is very wise," William said, his voice thick with suppressed emotion. They selected apples together, this strange temporary unit. William paid for the apples before Evelyn could protest, a gesture that felt both intrusive and oddly domestic. As the 10 minutes elapsed, Evelyn gathered her sons with decisive finality. "We need to go. Say goodbye." "Bye," Robert waved enthusiastically. "Maybe we'll see you again at the market." Liam was quieter, but he extended his small hand toward William with formal politeness. "Thank you for saving my brother." William shook Liam's hand with visible emotion. "Thank you for being such a good brother to him." That's an important job. As Evelyn ushered the boys away, she felt William's eyes following them. She refused to turn around, refused to acknowledge the weight of his gaze or the way her heart had stuttered watching him interact with their sons. That night, after the boys were asleep, she found herself replaying the encounter. The genuine fear on William's face when Robert had been in danger. The careful respect he'd shown in letting her control the interaction. The way he'd looked at the twins like they were miracles he'd been given unexpected permission to witness. Her phone buzzed. Another message from William's number. I wasn't following you to force interaction. I was trying to see them from a distance, to understand what their lives look like. I know that sounds invasive, and it probably was. But meeting them, even for those few minutes, was the most important thing that's ever happened to me. Thank you for letting me stay. I know you didn't have to. I won't ambush you again. I just needed you to know how grateful I am. They're incredible, Evelyn. You've raised incredible sons. She read the message 3 times before responding. They are incredible. And they didn't become that way by accident. Remember that. She sent the message before she could reconsider, then immediately regretted it. Responding meant leaving a door open, even just a crack. And doors, once opened, were difficult to close again. In his apartment across the city, William read Evelyn's response with hands that shook. He'd held his son today, both of them really in conversation, if not in physical embrace. He'd seen their faces up close, heard their voices, witnessed their personalities beginning to emerge. Robert was bold and trusting, throwing himself into experiences with wholehearted enthusiasm. Liam was cautious and observant, processing the world through careful analysis. They were different people already, fully formed humans with preferences and thoughts, and he'd missed all of it. Their first words, first steps, first everything. That loss felt suddenly crushingly real, in a way all his abstract guilt hadn't quite captured. Chapter 5. The Truth. The Twins Deserve. 2 weeks passed in careful avoidance. Evelyn threw herself into the Lucas estate project with intensity that bordered on obsessive, tearing through dated design elements like she was exercising personal demons. Her crew worked efficiently, stripping wallpaper and removing fixtures that had represented generations of Lucas family pretension. William kept his distance, but maintained presence through carefully chosen gestures. A donation to the boys' preschool arrived anonymously, funding new playground equipment and establishing a scholarship program. The director called Evelyn, thanking her profusely and mentioning that the benefactor had accidentally left a business card behind. Then Adelaide took a turn. Dorothy called late on a Wednesday evening, her voice carrying the particular strain that preceded difficult news. "Mom's asking for you. The doctors say it's not immediate, but they're talking about weeks now instead of months. She wants to see the boys." Evelyn packed bags with practiced efficiency, her mind already rearranging client meetings and site visits. The boys sensed the shift in atmosphere, their usual evening chaos subdued, by understanding that something important was happening. The drive to Adelaide's felt longer than usual, the twins uncharacteristically quiet in the back seat. Liam held his favorite book without opening it, staring out the window at darkness punctuated by highway lights. Robert clutched a stuffed elephant Adelaide had given him. Adelaide's house smelled different now, the cinnamon and apples replaced by something clinical and faintly medicinal. She'd been moved to a hospital bed in the downstairs sitting room, surrounded by photographs and quilts and the accumulated artifacts of a long life. "There they are," Adelaide whispered, her voice thread-thin but warm. "My beautiful great-grandsons." The boys climbed carefully onto the bed, one on each side of their great-grandmother, their small bodies bookending her diminished frame with instinctive gentleness. Adelaide's weathered hands found theirs, holding on with what remained of her strength. "Tell me what you've been learning," she said. "Tell me everything." Robert launched into an elaborate story about a class project involving butterflies. Liam was quieter, but he showed Adelaide a drawing he'd made, a family portrait featuring himself, Robert and their mama, with a large sun drawn in the corner. That's beautiful. Liam, Adelaide said, studying the picture, tell me about your family. It's me and Robert and Mama, Liam said matter-of-factly, and Grandma Dorothy when she visits. And you, but you're sick, so you stay in bed. That's a good family, Adelaide said. Small, but strong. Later, after the boys had been settled into bed in the upstairs guest room, Adelaide called Evelyn to her side. Dorothy made herself scarce, recognizing the particular quality of conversation that required privacy. He's found you, hasn't he? The twins' father? Yes, and you're terrified. I'm angry. Anger is easier than terror. Fear that he'll hurt those boys the way he hurt you. Fear that they'll love him and he'll disappoint them. Adelaide's faded eyes held knowing quality. But also fear that he might actually be genuine. That's the scariest possibility of all. Evelyn sank into the chair beside the bed, suddenly exhausted. He met them. Not intentionally. Robert almost got hurt and William was there, saved him. They don't know who he is, but they talked to him. And I watched him with them, and I saw genuine emotion, real connection. And I don't know what to do with that. What do the boys know about their father? Nothing concrete. They know some families have two parents, and some have one. Robert asks occasional questions, but accepts vague answers. Liam is starting to process deeper. Those boys deserve truth appropriate to their age. They deserve to know their story, even if it's complicated. Adelaide paused, gathering strength. Secrets have a way of becoming shame, and they've done nothing to be ashamed of. The next morning, Evelyn woke to find Liam standing beside her bed, his solemn face inches from hers. Mama, is great-grandma going to die? Direct question deserved direct honesty. Yes, sweetheart. Probably soon. Her body is very old and very tired, like leaves falling off trees. Exactly like that. It's natural. Liam processed this with characteristic thoughtfulness. Then is that why you're extra sad? Because of great-grandma and because of the man with eyes like ours? Evelyn's breath caught. She pulled Liam onto the bed beside her, holding him close while choosing her next words with care. The man from the market is part of a complicated story. A story about you and your brother and me. Do you want to hear it? Liam nodded against her shoulder. Before you and Robert were born, I knew someone I cared about very much. When I found out I was going to have babies, you and your brother, I told him, but he was scared. Sometimes people make bad choices when they're scared. He chose not to believe me and I had to raise you by myself. But the man at the market is him. The one who was scared? Yes. Is he still scared? The question was so simple yet so complex. I think he's sorry now. I think he understands he made a mistake. But being sorry doesn't change what happened. Does that mean he's our daddy? The word hung between them, heavy with implications. Biologically, yes. He's the person whose genetics combined with mine to create you and Robert. But being a daddy is about more than biology. It's about being present, being trustworthy, being someone children can count on. Could he earn it? Out of the mouths of babes. Evelyn found herself confronting the question she'd been avoiding. I don't know, Liam. Maybe, if he's willing to work very hard. But that's not something you need to worry about. Liam was quiet for a long moment. Then Robert's going to want to meet him. Robert always wants to meet everyone. I know. And when the time comes, if the time comes, we'll figure it out together. Later that morning, Evelyn pulled out her phone and stared at William's contact information. Adelaide's words echoed, "Those boys deserve truth appropriate to their age." She typed, "Liam figured out who you are, or at least that you're connected to them. He's asking questions I'm not sure how to answer. We need to talk about what happens next. Not for you, for them." William's response came within minutes. "Tell me when and where. I'll be there." "Thank you for considering this, Evelyn." They met at a coffee shop far from both their homes, neutral territory. William arrived early, sitting at a corner table with untouched coffee and the expression of a man approaching a sentencing hearing. Evelyn slid into the seat across from him. "Liam knows something is going on. He's too smart to miss the patterns. He's asking if you're their biological father, and I won't lie to him. But I also won't let you waltz into their lives without ground rules. Whatever ground rules you set, I'll follow them. Don't make promises before you know what they are. This isn't about grand gestures or guilt-driven overcompensation. If you're going to be in their lives at all, it has to be sustainable, consistent, focused entirely on their needs. William leaned forward. Tell me what you need from me. I'll do anything, Evelyn. Just give me a chance to know my sons. They're not puppies you can visit when it's convenient. They're children with routines, emotions, attachment needs. If you start this and decide it's too hard, the damage will be catastrophic. I understand, do you? Because understanding intellectually is different from living it. Are you actually prepared for that? I don't know, William admitted with brutal honesty. But I want to try. I want to learn. Evelyn studied him across the table. If I agree to let you meet them formally, with them knowing who you are, we start slow. Very slow. Supervised visits. You don't make promises about the future. You show up consistently for small moments. Agreed. And William, if you hurt them, if you disappoint them, if you decide this is too difficult and disappear, I will make sure they understand it's your failure, not theirs. I wouldn't expect you to. They sat in tense silence. Finally, Evelyn spoke. I'll talk to them this weekend. I'll explain in age-appropriate terms that their biological father wants to meet them, that it's complicated. Then we'll schedule something neutral, and we'll see what happens. William's eyes closed briefly, emotion flickering across his features. Thank you. Evelyn stood, preparing to leave. At the door, she turned back. Those boys are my whole world, William. They're happy, secure, loved. Don't you dare make me regret letting you close enough to threaten that. Chapter 6. The Battle Lines Drawn. The conversation with the twins happened on a Saturday morning. Sunshine streaming through kitchen windows while Robert built towers from his breakfast cereal, and Liam studied his mother's face with unnerving intensity. Evelyn had rehearsed this speech, but words felt inadequate for the complexity she needed to convey. Boys, I need to talk to you about something important. Remember the man from the farmer's market? The one with eyes like yours? Robert looked up from his cereal tower, immediately interested. Liam set down his juice carefully, his full attention locked on his mother. That man's name is William. And before you were born, he and I knew each other. When I found out I was pregnant with you both, I told him, but he wasn't ready to be a father. He made a mistake, a big one, by not believing me and not being there when you were born. So he is our daddy? Robert asked, processing this with his characteristic directness. Biologically, yes. He's the person who, along with me, created you. But being a daddy is about showing up and being there. He hasn't done that yet. Liam's face had gone carefully blank, the expression he wore when processing difficult emotions. Why didn't he believe you? That's complicated. Sometimes people let fear make their decisions, and they choose wrong. He was scared of responsibility, scared of disappointing his family. None of that was your fault or about you. Does he want to meet us now? Robert asked, bouncing slightly. He does. He wants to know you and be part of your life. But I need you both to understand something very important. You don't have to feel any particular way about this. If you're excited, that's okay. If you're nervous or confused or even angry, that's okay too. I want to meet him, Robert announced immediately. Maybe he'll play soccer with us. Liam was quieter, his small face working through calculations beyond his years. What if we meet him and then he leaves again? The question pierced Evelyn's heart. Liam had identified the exact fear that kept her awake at night. That's a very smart question, and I don't have a perfect answer. I'm trying to make sure he understands that being in your life means being consistent and reliable. But Liam, sweetheart, even if something doesn't work out the way we hope, you'll always have me. But families with daddies are normal, Liam said softly. Kids at school have moms and dads. We only have you. We're not less than other families just because we're shaped differently. We're complete as we are. If William proves he can be part of our life in a healthy way, that could be nice. But we're already whole. They scheduled the meeting for the following Saturday at a park the boys loved. Evelyn informed William through brief, business-like text messages that established parameters. 2 hours maximum, no gifts beyond something simple. He was to follow her lead on all interactions. The week passed in strange, suspended animation. Evelyn went through professional motions, while her personal life felt like a bomb, with a visible countdown timer. Adelaide passed away on Thursday evening, slipping away quietly in her sleep, with Dorothy at her bedside. The boys took the news with pragmatic acceptance, sad, but not devastated. She was very old and very tired, Robert said, like leaves falling off trees. Saturday morning arrived with brilliant autumn sunshine that felt inappropriately cheerful. Evelyn dressed the boys in comfortable clothes, preparing them for the park with practiced routine that felt surreal. "Are you nervous?" she asked them as they drove. "A little," Liam admitted, "but also curious." "I'm excited," Robert declared. "Maybe he'll push us on the swings really high." William was already there when they arrived, sitting on a bench near the playground, with his hands clasped between his knees, and his expression cycling through anticipation and terror. He stood when he saw them. "Hi," he said when they were close enough. "Thank you for coming." "Boys, this is William," Evelyn said formally. "William, these are my sons, Liam and Robert." The possessive pronoun was deliberate. William heard it flinch slightly but nodded acceptance. "Hi, Liam. Hi, Robert. It's really nice to officially meet you both." Robert stepped forward immediately. "Are you really our daddy?" "Mama said maybe, but we have to see if you're good at it first." William's face transformed, emotion cracking through his careful composure. "I'm your biological father, yes. But your mama's right. I haven't earned the title of daddy yet. I'm hoping to learn how to be someone you can trust." "Do you know how to play soccer?" Robert asked. "I'm rusty, but I'd love to try with you." Liam hung back, studying William with intense scrutiny. "Why weren't you there when we were born?" The directness made Evelyn tense. William knelt down, bringing himself to eye level with Liam. He didn't deflect. "Because I was scared and made a terrible choice. When your mama told me about you, I didn't believe her. I let fear and doubt make me cruel. I can't change that. But I can tell you it was the worst mistake of my life. You hurt Mama's feelings," Liam said matter-of-factly. "She gets sad sometimes, and I think it's because of you." "Liam," Evelyn interjected gently. "But it's true," Liam insisted. "You do get sad. I notice." William's voice was rough. "Your mama is one of the strongest, bravest people I've ever known. She did an incredibly hard thing, raising you both alone, and made it look easy because she loves you so much. Yes, I hurt her. That's something I have to live with." The raw honesty seemed to satisfy Liam. He nodded slowly. Robert, growing impatient, grabbed a soccer ball. "Can we play now?" "All the talking is boring." The next 2 hours unfolded with surreal normalcy. William played soccer with the boys, his initial stiffness gradually loosening. Robert attached to him immediately, demanding constant interaction. Liam remained more reserved, participating but watching, analyzing. Evelyn stayed close, giving them space while maintaining protective presence. She watched William with her sons and saw genuine engagement. He listened when they talked, asked questions that showed real interest. When Robert scraped his knee, William's response was immediate, comforting without overreacting. "You're okay, buddy. Knees are tough." "Mama has special bandages with dinosaurs," Robert informed him. "Your mama thinks of everything," William agreed, glancing at Evelyn with something that looked like awe. When the scheduled 2 hours elapsed, Robert was clearly disappointed. "Do we have to go already?" "We can do monkey bars next time," William said, then stopped, looking at Evelyn for permission. "If there is a next time. Can we, Mama? Please," Robert begged. Liam was quieter. "Would you actually come back?" William met Liam's eyes seriously. "Yes. If your mama says it's okay, I will be here every time I say I will. That's a promise." "Promises are important," Liam said. "Mama says breaking promises breaks trust." Your mama is wise. I broke promises before, and I understand if you don't believe me yet. I'm hoping to prove myself through actions." In the car driving home, both boys were unusually contemplative. Finally, Robert broke the silence. "I like William. He's nice. Can he come to our soccer game next week?" "Maybe," Evelyn said non-committally. "But Mama," Robert pressed, "if he wants to be our daddy, he should come to important things, right?" From the back seat, Liam's voice was quiet. "Did you love him before we were born?" Evelyn's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Yes, I did. Do you still?" That's complicated, sweetheart. Right now I'm trying to figure out if I can trust him enough to let him be part of your lives." "But it would be nice if you did," Liam said wistfully. "Then we could be a regular family." "We're already a family, Liam. Adding William wouldn't make us more real. It would just make us different." That night, after the boys were asleep, her phone buzzed. "Thank you for today." "They're extraordinary, Evelyn. Funny and smart and so clearly loved. You've done an incredible job. I know I have no right to say this, but I'm proud to be connected to them, even if I don't deserve to be. William." She stared at the message for a long time before responding. "They asked about coming to Robert's soccer game next weekend. No promises, but if you want to come watch, you can. Saturday morning. Don't bring anything flashy. Just show up." His response was immediate. "I'll be there. Thank you." Chapter 7. The scaffolding that supports new structures. The soccer game was chaos in its purest form. Small children running in approximately the right direction, occasionally kicking balls, mostly just enjoying the excuse to sprint and yell. Robert played with absolute commitment, his face a mask of concentration. Liam was more cautious, staying back near the goal. William arrived exactly on time, carrying nothing but coffee and wearing casual clothes. He spotted Evelyn on the sidelines and approached with careful deference, asking permission with his eyes before sitting near her. "They're incredible," he said quietly. "I can already see their different styles. Robert's all instinct and enthusiasm. Liam overthinks every move but rarely makes mistakes." Evelyn kept her eyes on the field. "They balance each other that way." "They balance you," William observed. "Robert has your courage. Liam has your intelligence." They sat in silence, watching the game unfold. When Robert scored, he immediately looked to the sidelines, his face illuminating when he saw both his mother and William cheering. He waved frantically before being swept back into the game. "He wanted you here," Evelyn admitted. "He specifically asked me to make sure you knew about the game." "Liam's still figuring me out," William said. "I can see him analyzing, deciding whether I'm trustworthy. He's been my little sentinel since he could walk. Always watching, always noticing, always making sure I'm okay." "You're an amazing mother." Evelyn finally looked at him directly. "Don't do that. Don't try to earn points with flattery. I know what kind of parent I am." William accepted the rebuke. "You're right. I'm sorry. I'm still figuring out how to interact with you." "That's because there's no right thing to say. There's only showing up and being consistent and proving through boring repetition that you're reliable. Words are cheap." The game ended with confusion about which team had won, followed by juice boxes distributed to all participants. Robert ran to them, sweaty and triumphant. "Did you see my goal?" "Did you see it?" "We saw it," Evelyn confirmed. "You were very fast." "William, did you see?" "I kicked it really hard." "I saw. You have good aim." "And you celebrated with your teammates after, which is great sportsmanship." Robert beamed, then grabbed William's hand with unself-conscious trust. "Will you come to my next game too?" William looked at Evelyn for permission. She gave the smallest nod. "I'd like that very much." "She will," Robert said with absolute confidence. "Mama likes when people show up for important things." Over the following weeks, a routine emerged almost accidentally. William came to Saturday soccer games. He took the boys to the park on Sunday afternoons, with Evelyn always present, never leaving them alone together. He learned their preferences. Robert loved adventure books. Liam preferred nature documentaries. He adapted to their schedules, asking about their routines and adjusting his availability to match their needs. The shift happened gradually. Evelyn found herself relaxing slightly, the hypervigilance she maintained around William loosening as he proved consistently reliable. He showed up when he said he would. He followed her boundaries without complaint. Then Adelaide's funeral arrived, bringing family together in collective grief. Evelyn had debated whether to tell William. She decided against inviting him, but mentioned it in passing during a Sunday park visit. "You'll have help with the boys during the service?" William asked. "My mother will watch them. If you need anything—" "I don't," Evelyn interrupted. "This is family." "You're not family." The words came out harsher than intended, but William absorbed them without flinching. "I understand, but if you change your mind, I'm available." The funeral was exhausting, full of relatives and old friends sharing stories. Evelyn held herself together through sheer will, maintaining composure that cracked only in private moments. Dorothy watched her daughter with concern, clearly sensing something more than mourning weighing on Evelyn's shoulders. After most mourners had left, Dorothy cornered Evelyn in Adelaide's kitchen. "You're going to tell me what's really going on, or I'm going to start making educated guesses." "I don't know what you mean." "The boys have been talking about someone named William who comes to Robert's soccer games. They describe him with particular attention that suggests he matters. So I'm going to ask you directly, is this the twins' father?" There was no point in continued evasion. Evelyn sank into one of Adelaide's kitchen chairs. "Yes, he found me a few months ago. He wanted to meet them. I've been allowing supervised visits while he proves he's serious, and you were going to tell me when?" When I figured out what I was feeling. When I had answers instead of just confusion." Dorothy pulled out another chair. "What are you confused about?" "Everything. Whether I'm doing this for the boys or for some part of me that still remembers loving him. Whether I'm being too cautious or not cautious enough. What do your instincts say?" "See, my instincts are compromised. I can't trust them where William Lucas is concerned. So watch the boys instead. Children don't lie with their responses. How do they react to him?" "Robert loves him already." "Of course, Robert loves him. Robert loves everyone. Liam is more cautious, but I see him warming up. He asked yesterday if William could help with his school project about families. And how does William treat them? Like they matter. Like every moment with them is precious and could be revoked at any second. He's attentive, patient, genuinely interested. He asks good questions. He listens. Evelyn stopped. "He's good with them, Mom. Better than I expected." "Does he ask about custody? About formal arrangements?" "No, he follows my lead completely. Never pushes, never demands." Dorothy studied her daughter's face. "You're starting to trust him again. That's what's really scaring you. I can't afford to trust him. Last time I trusted him, I ended up alone and pregnant. I survived that once. But if he hurts them after they've let him in, I don't know if I can protect them from that damage." "You can't protect anyone from pain, sweetheart. All you can do is teach them how to recover, how to process difficult emotions. But I could prevent this pain by keeping him at a distance." "You could," Dorothy agreed. "But you'd also prevent the possibility of them having a relationship with their father." Is that really what Adelaide would have advised? Evelyn thought about her grandmother's final words, her story about giving her own husband a second chance. Adelaide had believed in redemption paired with accountability. She'd tell me to be smart but not cynical, to protect them while also giving him space to prove himself. Sounds like you already know what Adelaide would say. Maybe the question is whether you agree with her. That night, tucked into the guest room with her sons sleeping nearby, Evelyn received a text from William. "I know today was hard. I'm sorry for your loss. Adelaide sounds like she was an incredible woman. I hope you don't mind. I sent flowers to the house in your family's name. Nothing flashy, just something to acknowledge her memory." Evelyn felt something crack in her careful defenses. He hadn't been invited, but had learned the location anyway. Not to intrude, but to send appropriate condolences. It was thoughtful without being presumptuous. She typed, "Thank you. That was kind." His reply came quickly. "The boys mentioned they're doing a family tree project at preschool. Liam asked if it would be okay for him to include me. I told him he needed to ask you first. I don't want to overstep." This was new territory, educational projects that required defining family structure. Evelyn hadn't anticipated these complications. "I'll talk to him about it," she responded. "These are the kinds of decisions we'll need to navigate together if you're serious." "I am serious. Whatever level of involvement you're comfortable with, I'm committed to maintaining it consistently." Evelyn set her phone aside and lay in the darkness, listening to her son's quiet breathing. They'd survived 4 years without William Lucas. They'd thrived, actually, building secure attachment through her sole parenting. But lately, she'd noticed changes. Robert's excitement about having someone who looked like him, Liam's gradual relaxation around William. They weren't damaged by William's presence. They were enriched by it, in small, undeniable ways. The question was whether Evelyn could set aside her own hurt long enough to allow that enrichment to continue, whether she could separate her justified anger from her son's deserved relationship with their father. She fell asleep with more questions than answers, but at least they were the right questions now. Chapter 8. The War That Tests Every Alliance. The emergency came without warning, as emergencies do. Evelyn was on a consultation call when her phone buzzed with a call from the preschool director. Liam had fallen on the playground, hit his head, and needed immediate medical attention. They were calling an ambulance. Evelyn's professional composure evaporated instantly. She ended the client call mid-sentence, grabbing her keys and racing toward the door while dialing her mother. No answer. Dorothy was at an appointment. Phone likely silenced. She called the preschool back while driving, following the ambulance to the hospital. The director assured her Liam was conscious and talking, but head injuries required precaution. Robert was with the assistant director, confused and scared. "I'm 20 minutes from the hospital," Evelyn said, her hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. "Can someone stay with Robert until I can—" She didn't know how to finish that sentence. She needed to be with Liam, but couldn't leave Robert alone. Her mother was unreachable. Her assistant was managing a client meeting. She had no support system. Her finger hovered over William's contact information. She'd sworn she wouldn't depend on him. But her son was hurt, and pride felt suddenly less important. "William," she said when he answered, "I need help. Liam fell, they're taking him to the hospital, and Robert is still at the preschool. I can't be in 2 places at once. I'm 10 minutes from the preschool. I'll get Robert and meet you at the hospital." "Which one?" She gave him the information, ending the call before she could thank him. The emergency room was chaos and waiting, fluorescent lighting and sanitized fear. Liam sat on an examination table, a temporary bandage on his forehead, looking pale but calm. When he saw Evelyn, his composure cracked. "Mama, I fell. It hurt really bad, and I got scared." She pulled him close, breathing him in, checking him over with frantic maternal inventory. "I'm here now, sweetheart. You're safe." The doctor explained concussion protocol, tests they'd need to run. Evelyn listened with half her attention, the other half focused on her phone, waiting for confirmation that William had successfully collected Robert. A text arrived. "I have Robert. He's okay but worried about his brother. We're in the waiting room whenever you're ready." 45 minutes later, after scans and examinations and reassurances that Liam would be fine with rest and monitoring, Evelyn emerged into the waiting area to find William sitting with Robert. Robert was curled against William's side, William's arm around him in a protective gesture that looked natural. They were reading a book together. William's voice quiet, Robert's responses intermittent as he occasionally asked when Liam would come out. "Mama!" Robert launched himself at her. "Is Liam okay? Can we see him?" He's okay. Just a bump on his head that needs to heal. But he asked for his brother, so yes, you can see him." Robert ran toward the treatment room, but Evelyn lingered with William for a moment. He stood, shoving his hands in his pockets, clearly uncertain of his role, now that the emergency was resolving. "Thank you," Evelyn said, the words feeling insufficient. "I didn't have anyone else to call." "You don't have to explain. I'm glad you called me. I'm glad I could help. You were good with him, Robert. He seems comfortable with you. He's an easy kid to be around. Told me all about Liam's favorite dinosaurs and the project they're building with blocks. He was scared, but he's resilient. Like his mother, you said. Like both his parents, I hope." They stood in awkward silence, the weight of the moment sitting heavy between them. William had shown up, handled a crisis, provided exactly the support needed without overstepping. "I should get back to them," Evelyn said finally. "But William, thank you, really." She returned to find Liam insisting he was fine, that the doctors were being too careful. The vulnerability he'd shown earlier had evaporated, replaced by determination to prove he was tough. Robert hovered, asking questions about the bandage. "Your brain is fine," Evelyn assured Robert. "Liam just needs rest and careful observation. We'll all be at home together." That evening, William arrived with soup from a restaurant the boys liked and fresh bread. He stayed only long enough to deliver the food and check on Liam, respecting Evelyn's space while making his presence felt in helpful rather than intrusive ways. Over the following week, William maintained that balance perfectly. He texted daily to ask about Liam's recovery, but didn't demand updates. He offered to help with logistics, but accepted when Evelyn said she had things handled. Then the legal papers arrived. Margaret Lucas, William's mother, had filed a petition for grandparents' rights. The document was thick with legalese, but the core argument was clear. She had biological grandchildren, being denied access to their paternal family. She claimed parental alienation, accused Evelyn of poisoning the children against their father's family. Evelyn stared at the papers with hands that shook. This was a declaration of war, a legal assault designed to rip apart the protection she'd built around her sons. She called William immediately, her voice cold with fury. "Did you tell your mother about my sons?" "What? No, I haven't spoken to my parents in over a year. Why?" "Because your mother just filed for grandparents' rights. She's suing me for access to Liam and Robert." The silence on William's end spoke volumes. When he finally responded, his voice was rough with what sounded like genuine shock. "I didn't know. I swear, Evelyn, I had no idea she knew about them. She must have been watching me, following me. Your family doesn't stop at no, do they? They don't accept boundaries. They just take what they want and destroy anyone who gets in their way. I'll fight this. I'll testify against her if necessary. She doesn't get to do this to you again." "Again." Evelyn's laugh was sharp. "She never stopped. She paid women off, fabricated medical documents, manipulated your entire life. This is just her latest move. And now my sons are collateral damage." "They're my sons too," William said quietly. "And I won't let her near them. Whatever I have to do to stop this, I'll do it." The custody hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later. Evelyn hired a lawyer, a fierce woman with a reputation for protecting mothers from predatory family court tactics. The lawyer reviewed Margaret's petition with clinical detachment. "She has a case, but it's not a strong one. Grandparents' rights are limited, but she's arguing that you've deliberately denied access. If we can prove William has had access and that you've been reasonable, her argument falls apart." "Will I have to testify?" "Probably. She'll try to paint you as vengeful. We'll need to show you've been measured, responsible, focused on the children's best interests. William's testimony will be crucial." The days before the hearing were tense with preparation. William met with Evelyn's lawyer, providing documentation of every visit, every text exchange, every moment of interaction. He brought financial records showing he'd been contributing to their support without demanding formal custody arrangements. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Evelyn asked the night before the hearing. "This is your mother. Testifying against her will end whatever relationship you have left. She gave me a choice years ago, her approval or you. I chose wrong. I'm not making that mistake again. This is different. This is your mother. I ended that relationship when I found out what she did to you, what she did to multiple women. She doesn't love me. She loves control. I won't give her access to my sons." The hearing was brutal. Margaret's lawyer painted Evelyn as a gold digger who trapped William with a pregnancy and then disappeared. They presented the anonymous donation story as evidence of deceit. Then William took the stand, and the narrative shifted. He detailed his mother's history of manipulation, providing documents showing payments to women, falsified records, intercepted communications. He described finding evidence that Margaret had known about Evelyn's pregnancy and actively worked to keep William from learning the truth. "My mother doesn't want a relationship with her grandchildren," William said clearly. "She wants possession of heirs she can control. I won't expose my sons to that toxicity." Margaret's face remained impassive, but her lawyer's frustration was evident. The judge asked pointed questions about the timeline, about William's current relationship with the children. "Has your client met these children?" the judge asked Margaret's lawyer. "She has not had the opportunity, Your Honor." "Because the mother has been establishing a relationship with the children's father first," Evelyn's lawyer countered. "This is not parental alienation. This is responsible introduction." The judge reviewed documents, asked more questions, and finally delivered a preliminary ruling. Grandparents' rights exist to protect existing relationships, not to create them. Mrs. Lucas has no established relationship with these children. This petition is denied. Furthermore, I'm issuing a restraining order, preventing Mrs. Lucas from contacting these children or their mother. Margaret stood, her face finally showing emotion, fury barely contained. The gavel came down with finality. Outside the courthouse, Margaret confronted them. "You've turned him against his own family. Those children are Lucas heirs, and you're raising them in poverty and obscurity. He'll resent you eventually." William stepped between his mother and Evelyn. "The only thing she cost me was years of becoming someone worth knowing. You cost me everything that mattered. Stay away from her. Stay away from my sons." Margaret's eyes were cold diamonds. "You'll fail them just like you failed us." "Then I'll learn from the woman who did it alone. At least I'll be learning from someone who actually loves those boys." Chapter 9. The Foundation That Holds. The custody arrangement was surprisingly simple to finalize. William wanted nothing except permission to be present, which made negotiations straightforward. They established flexible visitation rather than rigid schedules, allowing for adaptation as the boys' needs evolved. William continued his pattern of consistent presence: Saturday soccer games, Sunday afternoon park visits, occasional weeknight dinners. Then Evelyn's biggest professional opportunity arrived. A hotel chain wanted her to design interiors for 6 properties, a contract worth enough to secure her company's future. The catch: it required extensive travel over 6 months, including international trips. She almost turned it down automatically. Single mothers didn't accept jobs requiring global travel, but Dorothy heard about the opportunity and called with characteristic bluntness. "You're not seriously considering refusing this because you think you can't leave the boys. They're used to having me present. I can't just disappear for weeks." "I can take them," Dorothy offered. "I'll move into your apartment, maintain their routines. You have your own life, none of which are more important than seeing my daughter succeed professionally. Besides," Dorothy's voice carried a knowing tone, "you have another option now. William has proven he can show up consistently. Why not let him prove he can handle extended solo time?" The suggestion felt dangerous. But Dorothy was right. William had been reliable for months now, never missing scheduled time, never disappointing the boys. She raised the possibility during a Sunday park visit, watching William push Robert on the swings while Liam climbed nearby. "I've been offered a major contract. It would mean travel, sometimes 2 or 3 weeks at a time." William's attention sharpened. "That sounds like an incredible opportunity." "It would be, except I can't accept it. I can't leave the boys that long." "Why not? You have your mother for support." "She could manage some of it, but not all, and they need consistency." William caught Robert at the bottom of the slide, then turned to face Evelyn directly. "I could help, if you're comfortable with it. I could stay with them while you're traveling, maintain their routines. Your mother could supervise." "That's weeks of solo parenting. You've never done that." "So let me try. Start small, take a short trip, see how it goes. If I fail, you don't repeat the experiment. But Evelyn, you've been shouldering everything alone for 4 years. Maybe it's time to see if you can trust someone to share that load." The suggestion terrified her more than court battles or legal threats. This was internal vulnerability, trusting someone who'd already proven capable of devastating betrayal. "I don't know if I can do that." "I'm not asking you to trust me for your sake. I'm asking you to let me prove I can do this for their sake. They deserve to see their mother succeed. And honestly, I deserve the chance to show myself I'm capable of being the father I should have been." She took the contract, and William stepped into the reality of full-time parenting. The first trip was only 5 days, a property survey in California. William moved into her apartment under Dorothy's watchful supervision, taking over morning routines, school drop-offs, homework, dinner, bath time, bedtime stories. Dorothy reported that he was anxious but capable, asking questions constantly, somehow managing to keep both boys alive and relatively clean. Evelyn called every evening, FaceTiming with the boys. Robert was fine, chattering about his day. Liam was quieter, more reserved, asking when she'd be home, but accepting the timeline. "How's William doing?" she asked Dorothy privately. "He's exhausted. Humbled, constantly terrified he's messing something up, but he's handling it. The boys are fine, the routines are maintained." When Evelyn returned, she found her home organized, her sons bathed and in pajamas, a simple dinner warming in the oven. William looked like he'd aged 5 years in 5 days, but he also looked oddly content. "They're incredible," he said, gathering his overnight bag. "Also incredibly exhausting. How have you been doing this alone?" "You adapt. You find reserves you didn't know you had. I have newfound respect for every single parent on the planet. It gets easier, or you get better at it." The boys were thrilled to have her home, but their attachment to William had clearly deepened. They included him in their bedtime routine, automatically demanded he read stories with funny voices, protested when he tried to leave. "Can't William stay for breakfast?" Robert asked. "He makes good pancakes." Evelyn looked at William, seeing hope and uncertainty warring in his expression. They were crossing invisible lines, moving from scheduled visits to integrated presence. "Not tonight," she said gently, "but maybe we can plan a weekend breakfast together soon." The pattern repeated over the following months. Evelyn traveled, William parented, the boys adjusted to fluid arrangements where both parents contributed meaningfully. William learned how to handle Liam's occasional nightmares, how to negotiate Robert's stubborn insistence on wearing mismatched clothes, how to pack lunches that met nutritional standards and preschool regulations. He also learned the particular exhaustion of solo parenting, the bone-deep weariness that came from being perpetually on duty, always alert, never truly off the clock. He called Grace frequently, processing his developing understanding. "I thought I understood what I'd done to her," he told his sister. "But I didn't, not really. Not until I was alone with them, responsible for every decision, every meal, every emotional regulation. She did this while working 3 jobs, while building a business. I don't know how she's still standing. Maybe you should tell her that instead of me, Grace suggested. During one of Evelyn's longer trips, 3 weeks surveying properties in Japan and South Korea, something shifted. William had been handling solo duty for 10 days when Liam came down with a fever. Nothing serious, just a common childhood illness. But it required particular vigilance, monitoring temperature, administering medicine, staying nearby in case symptoms worsened. William set up camp in Liam's room, checking on him hourly through the night, adjusting blankets, bringing water, providing comfort. In the morning, Liam woke slightly improved and found William asleep in the chair beside his bed, tablet open to medical websites. "You stayed all night," Liam observed. "Of course. You were sick. That's what parents do. Mama stays with us when we're sick too." "Your mama is very smart. I'm learning from her example." Liam studied William with characteristic intensity. "Are you our daddy now, or are you still just William?" The question hit William with unexpected force. He'd been careful not to claim titles he hadn't earned, but something had shifted during these weeks of actual parenting. "I'd like to be your daddy, if that's something you and Robert are comfortable with. But you get to decide what you call me. Robert already calls you daddy sometimes. When he's excited, he probably doesn't even notice he's doing it. Do you want to call me that?" Liam was quiet for a long moment. "Maybe. Can I try it and see how it feels?" "Absolutely. You can change your mind any time. There's no wrong answer here, Liam." When Evelyn returned from Asia, exhausted from travel and time zone adjustments, she found a home that felt subtly different. William had maintained everything perfectly. Routines honored, children thriving, apartment clean. But there was also evidence of his deeper integration. A coffee maker he preferred sitting on the counter, a book he'd been reading left on the side table, a worn sweatshirt hanging in the coat closet. "I can clear my stuff out," William said, noticing her noticing. "I just thought it would be easier to keep some things here." "It's fine," Evelyn heard herself say. "You're here enough that it makes sense." The boys rushed to greet her, talking over each other about everything that had happened while she was gone. Robert mentioned casually that Daddy had let them have ice cream for breakfast once, and Liam didn't correct the title. Evelyn's eyes found William's across the room. He looked uncertain, waiting for her reaction to the shift in what the boys called him. "Daddy, huh?" she said quietly. "They started it on their own. I didn't ask them to. If you're not comfortable—" "No," Evelyn interrupted. It's okay. You've earned it. Not with grand gestures or apologies. With showing up. With being present. With doing the work." William's relief was palpable. "Thank you for trusting me with them. For giving me the chance to become someone worthy of that title." Later that night, after the boys were asleep and William had left for his own apartment, Evelyn sat in her living room, staring at the evidence of his presence in her home. The coffee maker, the book, the sweatshirt. Small things that suggested permanence rather than temporary arrangement. She thought about Adelaide's words, about her grandmother's story of giving second chances to people who'd proven they could change. She thought about her sons calling William Daddy with casual acceptance, as if he'd always been there. And she realized, with something between fear and relief, that she was no longer keeping William at arm's length, out of protection. She was keeping him there out of habit, clinging to old hurt because it felt safer than the vulnerability of forgiveness. Her phone buzzed with a message from William. "Thank you for today, for accepting what the boys call me, for trusting me. I know it cost you something. I hope you know I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of that trust." Evelyn stared at the message, her thumb hovering over the keyboard. She could respond with something neutral, something that maintained professional distance. Or she could be honest about the shift happening inside her. She typed, "You're doing good, William. Really good. The boys love you. That's what matters." Then, before she could overthink it, she added, "And for what it's worth, I'm starting to believe you've actually changed." Not because of your words, because of your actions. Keep doing that. She sent the message and felt something loosen in her chest. Like a knot she'd been carrying for 4 years, finally beginning to untangle. Chapter 10. The Home Built on Stronger Foundations. The transformation happened so gradually that Evelyn almost didn't notice until she was living in the middle of it. William had become a fixture in their lives, not an intruder or a complication, but simply part of the daily fabric. He knew which mornings Liam needed extra patience and which afternoons Robert would be wound tight with energy. He remembered that Robert hated crusts cut off his sandwiches and that Liam preferred his vegetables separated on the plate, never touching. 6 months after William had first met the boys formally, Evelyn returned from a 2-week trip to find something unexpected. The boys had drawn a picture at preschool, a family portrait featuring 4 figures instead of 3. Mama, Liam, Robert and Daddy all holding hands under a crayon sun. Liam wanted to add Daddy, the preschool teacher explained when Evelyn picked them up. I hope that's all right. He was very insistent that this is what his family looks like now. Evelyn stared at the drawing, her throat tight with emotion she couldn't quite name. It wasn't grief exactly, but it wasn't purely joy either. It was the complicated feeling of watching something new grow from the ruins of something old, beautiful and strange in equal measure. That evening, she invited William to stay for dinner instead of dropping off and leaving. They sat around her small kitchen table, the 4 of them, while Robert chattered about his day and Liam quietly organized his food into precise arrangements. It felt startlingly normal, this domestic scene that would have been impossible to imagine a year ago. After the boys were in bed, Evelyn and William sat in her living room with the particular exhaustion that followed active parenting. The silence between them was comfortable now, no longer weighted with hostility and unspoken recriminations. The boys drew a family portrait today, Evelyn said, passing him the picture. 4 people. William studied the drawing with an expression that cycled through wonder and humility and something deeper. They included me. You've earned inclusion. You've shown up every day for 6 months. You've been patient with Liam's anxiety and present for Robert's chaos. You've learned their rhythms and adapted to their needs. Evelyn paused, choosing her next words carefully. You've become their father, not just biologically, but in every way that actually matters. I don't take that lightly, William said, his voice rough with emotion. Every day, I'm aware that I'm starting years behind, trying to catch up to a relationship I should have been building from the beginning. You can't change the past. Neither can I, but we can decide what the future looks like. Evelyn took a breath, steadying herself for what came next. I've been thinking about formalizing our arrangement. Not just custody on paper, but actual co-parenting. Joint decisions about their education, their health, their lives. Are you sure? That's a significant trust. I've been watching you for 6 months. I've seen you at your most exhausted, your most frustrated, your most uncertain. And you've never wavered. You've never disappeared when things got hard. That consistency has earned my trust. William set the drawing down carefully, as if it were precious and fragile. There's something I need to say to you. Something I should have said months ago but didn't have the words for. He turned to face her fully. I'm sorry doesn't cover what I did to you. There's no apology adequate for calling you a liar when you were carrying my children, for abandoning you to face pregnancy and birth alone, for choosing my family's lies over your truth. I destroyed the woman I loved because I was too much of a coward to disappoint people who didn't deserve my loyalty. Past tense again, Evelyn noted quietly. The woman you loved. No, William corrected, his eyes meeting hers with startling directness. The woman I love. Present tense. I never stopped loving you, Evelyn. I just failed you catastrophically. And I know I have no right to expect anything from you beyond what you've already given me, access to our sons, the chance to prove I've changed. But I need you to know that every moment of the last 6 months I've been falling in love with you all over again. Not the memory of who you were, but the reality of who you've become. You're stronger and braver and more remarkable than I ever deserved. Evelyn felt her careful defenses cracking under the weight of his honesty. She'd spent 4 years building walls around her heart, convincing herself that William Lucas was a chapter closed and buried. But walls only held as long as you wanted them to, and somewhere along the way, she'd stopped wanting to keep him out. "I'm not ready," she said finally. "I'm not ready to say I love you back, or to pretend we can pick up where we left off. Too much has happened. Too much pain, too much survival, too much time." "I know," William said, accepting the boundary without protest. "I'm not asking for anything beyond what you're willing to give. If friendship and co-parenting are all that's possible, that's more than I ever expected." "But," Evelyn continued, her voice softening, "I'm not closed to the possibility. I'm watching how you are with the boys, how you've integrated into our lives, how you've proven yourself through boring daily consistency rather than grand gestures. And I'm starting to feel something I thought I'd killed 4 years ago. I don't know what it is yet. It might be the beginning of forgiveness. It might be the first stirrings of something more complicated." "That's enough," William said quietly. "That possibility is more than enough." They sat in the comfortable silence of people learning to be in each other's presence without armor. Outside, the city hummed with its constant noise. But inside Evelyn's apartment, something fragile and new was taking root. The next morning, Robert bounded into the living room where Evelyn was reviewing contracts and announced with characteristic enthusiasm, "Daddy said he'd take us to the museum today if you said it's okay." "Can he? Please?" Evelyn looked up from her work to find Liam hovering in the doorway, his face showing cautious hope. "Would you come with us? All 4 of us together?" "Like a family outing," Robert added helpfully. "Daddy said we should ask if you want to be included." Evelyn felt something settle in her chest, a sense of rightness that had been missing from her life for so long she'd stopped noticing its absence. This was what she'd wanted for her sons, not just survival, but thriving. Not just a mother's love, but the security of knowing they were wanted and valued by both parents. "Yes," she said, closing her laptop with finality. "Let's go to the museum. All 4 of us. Like a family?" Robert whooped with victory, already running to find his shoes. Liam's face broke into a rare, brilliant smile that transformed his serious features into pure childhood joy. And William, leaning against the doorframe watching the scene unfold, looked like a man who'd finally found his way home after being lost in the wilderness for far too long. They spent the day at the museum, 4 people learning to move through the world as a unit. Evelyn and William traded off, managing the boys' different energies. She handled Liam's deep questions about exhibits while he channeled Robert's enthusiasm into structured exploration. They moved in unconscious coordination, the dance of co-parents who'd learned each other's rhythms through practice rather than assumption. In the museum cafeteria, sharing overpriced sandwiches and juice boxes, Robert looked around the table with satisfaction. "This is nice. I like when we're all together." "Me too," Liam agreed quietly, then added with his characteristic precision, "It feels complete." Evelyn caught William's eye across the table, saw the emotion flickering there, the gratitude and wonder at being included in this ordinary moment. She reached across the table, her hand finding his, giving it a brief squeeze that acknowledged everything and promised nothing except presence. That evening, after William had left and the boys were asleep, Evelyn stood at her window looking out at the city lights. She thought about the woman she'd been 4 years ago, heartbroken, pregnant, alone, facing an uncertain future with nothing but determination and stubborn refusal to be destroyed by circumstance. She thought about the woman she'd become, strong, capable, fiercely protective of the family she'd built from nothing. And she thought about the future stretching ahead, no longer just survival, but possibility. William had earned his place in their lives through consistent action rather than empty promises. He'd proven himself worthy of her son's love, and maybe, eventually, worthy of hers. Her phone buzzed with a text from William. "Thank you for today, for letting me be part of your family, for giving me the chance to build something beautiful from the ashes of my worst mistakes. Sweet dreams, Evelyn," she smiled, her finger hovering over the keyboard. Then she typed, "Sweet dreams, William. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow." The word felt like a promise, like the beginning of something that might, with time and care and continued consistency, bloom into the kind of love that lasted. Not the naive passion of youth, but the deeper connection of two people who'd survived the worst and chosen to build something better. Evelyn closed her curtains and went to check on her sleeping sons one final time. They were tangled in their blankets, peaceful and secure, growing up in a home where love wasn't perfect but it was present, where mistakes had consequences but also opportunities for redemption. She'd built an empire from the ashes William Lucas had left behind. And now, impossibly, she was watching him help her transform that empire into something neither of them had imagined possible: a family.